Okay, folks, here we go. We're in the car. We have the gauges. Here they are, because over here they're out of focus, and over here they're in focus. I'm using two cameras this time, so you'll be able to get a look at the area behind, over here behind the gauges. I put some frog tape just to protect a few things. Now I'm going to have to remove all this setup and remove the gauges in order for me to put this gauge cluster in here. There used to be gauges here, but as you can see, some of them have been rounded out in order to fit this gauge cluster, and they have holes here, 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 and here to fit these studs that I put into this bezel. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this piece apart. So I have to pull all these out, and after I put everything in, first I'll put the bezel in here, then I'll put the gauges one by one. This is the cables that I spoke about that are going to go to the Tach from the fuel cutoff switch and the Tach itself. This is the cable from the Autometer GPS sender, and this is the cable for the instrument lights that's going to connect to the other side of this connector. I've gone ahead and made myself one of these cables that's going to go from the ignition. It's going to go from the accessory port where it actually says instrument power right to power all the gauges. I have this cable here connected right into this area here for ground, and that will connect to one of the grounds. It's a good solid chassis ground. And then here we have our gauge harness after we took it apart. Now it's going to be a lot easier to put it back in. That's going to be nice. I can actually go ahead and put in the Tach connection right now, but I'll go ahead and do that after the gauges are in. Let's do that right now. Let's see, the speed sensor, which is this one right here, is the first one to go into the first connector in the top left. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in now. Let me just make sure I'm routing it correctly. Alright, the second one is going to be the Tach. So let's just pull this out. Push this into the second connector. Alright, 5 connectors on there. And I believe that's the last thing we had to do, because we already have. Alright, do we have? Yeah. And then this connector here is going to go to this one cable that I made, but that's not going to go in there yet. I don't have to connect that yet. Neither do I have to connect the ground one yet. So I can just leave this harnessed here for now. Oh, this is the instrument lights. Push this back. This is going to go connected to this cable right here. Make sure I'm routing it correctly. And these two connect together in a quick disconnect. Nice. Alright, so I have everything except for the grounds and the hot wire going to the harness. The long wires, we'll worry about how to route them out to the engine a little bit later on. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and continue to disassemble the gauges from the bezel and install the bezel, secure the bezel, and then we'll start putting the gauges in one by one. So we have our harness back here, and we have our bezel. It sounds like our bezel, but it's not. All right. All right. That is tight. secure that. Get the right wrench for that. Alright, I'll go from the bottom up. The last one was the fuel. Then we have volts. Okay, so next up is oil pressure. And last but not least, of the small gauges, the water temperature. Issue here. This one is going into the hole. The hole's too way large. So I have to make this thicker. I'm going to put some tape around it. Oh, that's interesting. So the hole behind this piece right here is so large that the retaining plastic bracket goes in to the hole, like the piece that's behind it, the wood piece that's behind it. It won't be flush. So it'll still shift. I'm going to put some tape around this edge. I'm going to put some tape right around this edge right here. Alright, I just tried to close these corners a little bit. Let's see what happens. make sure it's straight. I gotta see it from the back of the car. Fortunately, that's not too far away. The water temperature is nice and straight. I think all the other ones need to be corrected to the right a little bit. Okay. Let's go ahead and put in the Speedo. Let's see how these pieces secured in the back. Let's see how they fit. That's what I thought. I have to cut these another 1/8 of an inch. Got these two cut down. See? Oh, that's crooked. Okay. Okay. Now the next one. Okay, looks like we have most of this stuff wired up. The fuel sender is going to go down a very intricate wire loom that's going to take some time. Okay, I have the switch in here so I can be able to set the fuel sender. Now the sides of this will be covered on both sides. Even here next to the accelerator will be covered, so you're not going to have much access to any of these wires. So now I have to wire in the ground. No, on this side I'll go ahead and... Alright, gauges are in. I was looking at the diagram, and there's a perfect spot for the instrument feed gauge power, AG, which is that one right there, AG. The last one at the bottom is set for turn signal flasher to steering column. The next one above it is accessory. The next one above that is for a wiper motor, which I actually may have in the future. And the one on top of that is actually instrument feed with a 10 amp fuse, just like it's suggested by Autometer. So this cable here, I'm going to plug it into this connector and then route it nicely and put it in right there underneath this other red wire. And this red wire here is going to the fuel pump safety switch. And this wire actually says instrument power, which is perfect. I'm gonna snake this behind all these wires.
nice and snug. Okay, so I have my power that's powering the switch. I already connected the instrument lights. So I have a ground that I put into an extra ground bus that I have at the bottom here. I don't know if you can see that. I went from this ground terminal that's on the fuse panel down and created a new bus terminal. Now this fuse panel, there was no way to attach it properly to a fiberglass firewall. Even though this is a full steel frame underneath it, this is still a fiberglass firewall. So we went ahead and did an industrial glue on this piece of, I think it's an ABS plastic riser that's glued on there with an epoxy that if we were to rip this off, we'd rip the entire firewall apart. And then I was able to screw this through a piece of Dynamat into this piece of ABS plastic, which is solid. So it's a nice solid mounting point for the fuse panel. The idea for this came from Little Joe's Street Rod Shop, which used to be in Margate, Florida, and now he is in Denver, North Carolina. An amazing hot rod builder. So got my horn relay on. This is by the way, this is a Centec system. I believe this is a 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, a 13. It has flasher, horn relay, turn signal flasher. It's great. It's a nice setup. I've had this in the car for a while, and you know the top closes on there real nicely. I had to modify the top since I had so many cables up here coming in, but everything was wired and routed correctly, and nice and tight under here, so no water ever gets to this area. All right, so now we gotta run the ground. And then that's it, really. And then I gotta run these cables here to their respective switches in the engine compartment. That's gonna be a while, but I'll go ahead and run the ground, and then let's see if we can hook it up and turn on the lights. So this will just go right to there. So I gotta cut it short. I know this isn't an instructional for everybody, but I hope it helps someone and it gives them the extra push to just get going with it and get that project that's in the garage out and on the road where it should be, or on the show circuit if that's what you want to do. I know this one will be driven a while and then shown a while. I put a piece of heat shrink on here. Always wear eye protection, folks. It'd be a shame to lose an eye because you crimped a bunch of cables and they went flying into your face and you weren't wearing a $4 pair of glasses. Make sure that's being pushed in. You know what time it is. We'll tie wrap all these away. I need to run another ground to the other side of the gauge cluster where I have a small non-insulated connection that I have to make. Alright, we're here on the other side and I need to find that other ground spot. Well, there it is. Alright. Okay. This is the ground wire that I installed on the other side. So I just have to make a little loop, have it go in there, slide the heat shrink over it. Wham bam, done. Those gauges sure look nice. Can't wait to show them to you lit. That's not going anywhere. Slide that over the top.
And here comes the heat shrink. Okay, now I just gotta zip tie a few of those, clean a few things up, and I'll show you the lit gauges.